Morning, everybody. Welcome to our first ever Town of Loomis virtual State of the Town by de facto virtual. So we're gonna get started. I am gonna be acting as the master of ceremonies today, trying to run this thing with the technology that we have. First up, I just want to give a little shout out to Jenny Neisey, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for doing this, Jenny. It looks like Jenny and Jan are in different places, but they're actually sitting right next to each other on separate laptops. So, first off, we're going to start this morning with Chief Eric Walder. So the focus of our State of the Town this year is going to be on public safety. You know, with the COVID-19 issue happening, pandemic obviously dealing with that, but we also have other issues going with fire and with potential evacuations if we have an evacuation situation. We have our Loomis substation, Lieutenant Bryan Silva, who will also be speaking coming up, and then we have Jeff Brown, who is the Director of Placer County Health and Human Services, and he'll be speaking in a little bit as well. So first, I'm going to turn it over to, to Chief Eric Walder, and he's going to do a presentation, kind of run us through what's happening on the South Placer Fire Protection District side. So.
Here. So can you see that first slide? Is it up on your screen?
Yep.
State of the Town, SPFD Chief Eric Walder. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this presentation today and sort of highlight South Placer Fire District and how we serve the community or the town of Loomis and the surrounding community. Starting off real quick, we just want to say that we're an all-risk agency. As far as emergency all-risk agency, we serve 55 square miles out of 7 stations. 6 of those are staffed. We have 60 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee and 9 volunteers and / interns. That number fluctuates from anywhere from 9 to 20. Right now we have 9. And we serve approximately 40,000 citizens within the district. We're governed by an elected board of 7 directors, and we have 7 because we merged the 2 boards. So we have Division 1, which is the former Loomis Fire District, and Division 2, which is the former South Placer Fire District. So we have 4 directors from the former South Placer Fire District and 3 from the former Loomis Fire District. And our estimated operating revenue is about $13.7. The full budget is about $14.5. And some of that comes from our out-of-county strike team response, and that's just more pass-through revenue. That's a real quick picture on our overall staffing and a little bit about what we do. We do fire, all fires, structural, wildland, auto, dumpster fires, trash can fires, any kind of fire, obviously is our job. Another huge part of our business is EMS. We're advanced life support at all our stations. Every engine that you see running around out there, and we'll have a paramedic on it. We offer transport service in the former South Placer Fire District. We've been transporting since the 1950s. In the South Placer Fire District. In the Loomis part of the former Loomis Fire District, AMR still has a contract for transport in there, although we work together seamlessly in that area. But the engine in the town of Loomis is a paramedic staffed engine. So we believe that the first on-scene engine should have a paramedic there to take care of any emergency that may face our citizens, so medical wise. Training, we do all in-house training. We coordinate the delivery of training to all employees. Every firefighter has a minimum mandated amount of training they must have every year, and we beat those mandates, and we continue to strive to give our employees every opportunity to increase their abilities to serve the community. Also fire prevention, we do code enforcement, plan checks, business inspections, public education, and fire investigations, which, we do have a full fire investigation team. They're all post-certified with 6 members, and we do work hand in hand with the PCSO unit that they have to investigate all of our fires. So at this point, I think, we'll go into the rest of the department real quick. We have a safety division that monitors workplace safety and Cal OSHA compliance, and he's also our public information officer. And our administrative services, we do human resources, payroll, business services, employment, and promotional processes. We also operate a fleet maintenance facility. We maintain all of our apparatus, and we have a full-time fire mechanic who's certified by the state fire marshal and also is ASC certified as well. So that's a real quick overview of the department. Some of our challenges in 2020, just like everybody else, has been this wonderful coronavirus. So it's created quite a challenge for us. One, because we're essential workers. We're there to take care of the community, and we have to take care of ourselves to make sure that we're available to respond. So, and just like everybody else, when this hit, although we do have a level of personal protection equipment that we always have had, it wasn't to the level that came out in the first guidance. So we didn't have enough PPE to, on every call, put every responder in gowns, goggles, face masks, and N95s. And then, at that call, all 6 people that were on the call we were told to throw that away and put new stuff on. So we didn't have enough PPE to last us very long. So we immediately did what everybody else did, and that was to, hoard what we have and look for more, right? And that is to keep our responders able to go on these calls, protect themselves, not get sick, and then come back to the station and be in a family environment with people that come in and on and off duty. So it's been really tricky trying to keep our responders one, healthy and safe, and then also restrict access to really a public space and put our responders first when it comes to, I had to close the fire station from the public, close the front office, send my front office home, figure out how to keep operations going while working from a distance, and then also keeping everybody healthy and safe and having a plan to move forward in case anybody did get sick. And how was I, the direction from CDC and from Placer Public Health was first responders are essential. You work until you have symptoms, and then you go home. So even if you've been exposed. So working with a union and my labor force, people don't like to hear that, right? So we came up with a plan, and it's a very extensive plan that went through my bargaining unit, and to protect our employees and to give them a place to, if they were exposed, to get a test, make sure they're negative, so they didn't take whatever they brought home or whatever they got at work home to their families. And then, about a month later in April, beginning of May, the governor made coronavirus presumptive for all first responders. So at first it wasn't. So if you contracted it, we didn't know where you contracted it. So now it's presumptive, at least for the next 60 days after the end of the emergency, whenever that is. Corona will be presumptive for all first responders and covered under workers' comp. So this thing's ever evolving, and it's something I think we've met on, my labor force and the administration, and we haven't missed a beat. We've had a couple close calls with Corona as far as people that either got sick or were exposed, and we activated the plan, got our employees tested, and thankfully everybody's come back negative that we've had in the district. So also, that's a little bit about how we responded to Corona. and it's not over. You know, the cases are spiking. It could be due to more testing, but you know, we still have to, we still have to respond like every patient has corona, and protect ourselves so we can keep serving the community. We also put in disinfection. You know, we have a very intense and specific decontamination procedure that we did for our stations and our ambulances, and we were able to, go ahead and mist our disinfectant to clean our apparatus and our stations if we do get corona in a station. So we invested in a system to do that, and hopefully we're going to be getting that reimbursed from the federal government as we move forward. So a little bit about civil unrest. Another thing we don't get much in Granite Bay Loomis is civil unrest. And, at first, I think our sheriff partners, that's pretty much their, we don't go into uncontrolled situations that have to do with violence. We wait until we're cleared from SO and law enforcement, and, we're there to support our citizens and law enforcement, but really, we're not, that's not our gig per se, although the after effects and some of the effects of the civil unrest, we will be responding to. But we really rely on our law enforcement partners to, make sure the scene is safe as can be, and then we'll respond in and take care of any kind of medical emergency we need to. So it just, I had to put the response directives in place. Usually you don't have we have a tactical retreat policy. Not everybody really knows about it. It's not one of those we read very often, but I brought that out to the forefront. If there is a situation one of our engines gets into and there isn't law enforcement on scene and they are starting to be in a civil unrest, we have a policy in place to have a tactical retreat and whatnot. And that leads me to what I want to really talk about, and that's wildland season. And, that's something that is, usually at the forefront of everybody's mind right now. Really, we're already in fire season. Conditions are receptive to ignition. We've already had multiple fires within the South Placer Fire District, Loomis and Granite Bay proper. And it's time to start really taking seriously the threat that it has to our community. PSPS, it's going to happen again. PG&E is going to de-electrify the lines when there's fire weather, and our people need to make sure we get that message is out and clear, that to be prepared. And then also defensible space. If you're not prepared now, you should already have your residences prepped up, but you can still do some good work between now and the next 3 or 4 months is when fire season is, all the way up until December. So those are some of the challenges we face. Really the new challenges, and then the wildland season is always a challenge to your fire district. In 2019, we ran about 3,700 calls for service. If we look at the breakout on that, we have a fire about once every 3 days, and then mainly about 70% of our calls are EMS rescue. And then you can see service calls, good intent, a bunch of false calls, and then our average response times. I think your fire district is well strategically placed throughout our district to really serve our community well as far as our response times for EMS and fire. So this is a little bit of breakdown on the response. About 1,000 to 1,200 of those are responded by the station in downtown Loomis. So they run about 1,200 to 1,300 calls a year. Just because there's a 3,700 calls, 1,000 of those might have had a 5-unit response. Or if we have a 1 medical aid, it's usually a 2-station response with an ambulance and an engine. So even though there's 3,700 incidents, there could be closer to 10,000 responses for those 3,700 incidents, if that makes any sense. If we have a structure fire, we're sending 8 resources to that. So one incident will create 8 responses, single unit responses. Let's see, our stations, in case you don't know exactly where we're at, I think. So we've got Station 15, which is off of East Roseville Parkway over by Granite Bay High School. Station 16 on Olive Ranch Road. And Station 17, which is our headquarters. I got to replace that picture and get a springtime picture in there. And then this is our downtown Loomis station on Horseshoe Bar, and this is King Road and Auburn Folsom, and this is Auburn Folsom and Cabot Stallman. So that's where our stations are located. If we look at the map of the fire district, you know, we're strategically located to, you know, hit our best response times. I think if you look at the former Loomis Fire District, it's sort of outlined in the red here. That's the former Loomis Fire District, and the blue is the town of Loomis as sits proper. So when Loomis was incorporated, they set the town over 3 fire districts. So this little corner right here is the Penryn Fire District, which is still, you know, operates fire services within the town of Loomis. And then this was the old Loomis South Placer Fire District boundary. So South Placer had a bit of the town of Loomis. So when we consolidated, we cleaned up the whole bit here, except for the little corner of Penryn, which is still in the town of Loomis and is served by the Penryn Fire District from Station 38. Station 18, which shows 28, is right here, and we'd be first into any of that area as well. If you can see, if you get a call out here, you know, Station 20, 28, and 19 will all be converging. So that's a little bit about the layout of the fire district when you have a multiple unit response. Let's see here. Downtown Loomis, this is was on the Planning Commission's docket last night for design approval for the downtown Loomis station. We want to, you know, the Loomis Fire District and now the South Placer Fire District Board has been saving for years to increase the size of the truck room. That truck room was built in the 1930s in downtown Loomis, and it was made for an engine the size of our 1945 parade truck, not the new, you can't lift up the cab, you can't do any kind of, you know, any kind of work on the engine. And the truck ramp is not very, you can't pull the engine out on the truck ramp in the front of the station. There's a lot of things that aren't as safe about the truck room. We'd like to keep the aesthetics of the historic truck room off of Horseshoe Bar Road and put our parade trucks in there, put some lighting in it. So as you're driving by the Loomis Fire Station, you'll see our parade trucks in there. But we want to put a state-of-the-art truck room off the back of the station. And that house we own, we want to go ahead and demolish the house and put up a state-of-the-art truck room that'll fit in beautifully with the surrounding areas and take care of some of the ADA features with the walkway around. So looking forward to getting that off, see how the Planning Commission decides on that next week. And then a little bit, I'm watching the clock here, Sean. I know I got about 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna burn through here. I've got a little bit about the county response. No fire district in the county can stand on our own without our mutual aid partners. So we have a plan in place, closest resource agreement. You'll see on any wildland fire, you'll see multiple fire agencies on every fire, and that is because we're all not big enough to put out these things by ourselves. So you'll see us working hand in hand with PCSO, you know, even more now than ever in the past. We'll set up unified command. You know, usually if a fire is burning in a wildland fire, you'll see we'll engage the fire. I think the best offense, defense sometimes is a strong offense. So the best thing for our fire engines to do is engage the fire. PCSO will come in, get with our IC, and then they'll determine which area needs to be focused on for evacuations. And then, you know, every fire is different. So the plan has to be built right there. And then that's how, you know, we go to work with PCSO. And, you know, really you know, we work hand in hand. So evacuations are are taking place, the best thing to do might be to shelter in place. So we don't want to just evacuate to evacuate. We want to all work in concert to figure out the best plan of action. So depending on the incident and where it's going. But we all do work together in the county. And then if it got really big, I'm the region coordinator for OES Region 4. So when any big fire that goes in the state, I'll get contacted and I start pulling resources from a 12 county area. And, we have over 40 strike teams that we can access. 40 strike teams times 5 engines. So that's 200 engines within the region that are most of the time available for a response. It takes a long time to spin up that many resources, but I think that's the max we've ever gotten out of Region 4. So with that, I think I have a couple minutes for questions. Sean, I'll let you work that how you think is appropriate.
Thanks for that, Chief.
Hopefully my mic was on that whole time.
I didn't hear anything. Well, I didn't hear what you said. Just kidding. Yeah, you did great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Chief, just a quick question from me. How long have you been with the district?
Oh, I've been with the district for 29 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I think we'll open it up. If anybody on the panel has a question, we can do that pretty easily through Zoom. If you're watching through Zoom as an attendee, if you type in on the chat, I can ask the question for you. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it. So does anybody on the panel have any questions for Chief Walder?
I don't have a question per se, but I do want to thank you so much for your time, Chief Walder, and we appreciate you and all of the people that work for your wonderful department. And I know you're right, all of us are thinking about the wildland fires that are coming this year. So we appreciate you coming and speaking today. Thanks.
Well, like I said, thank you so much, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to present here today. And we're lucky to be able to serve this community. We've got a great group of people and a great community to serve, and we're proud to do it. So thank you so much.
So this isn't really a question, this is a statement from Carl Fowler. He says, Chief Walder is an excellent boss. So you owe Carl a donut or something for that.
I owe that guy more than that, but thanks, Carl.
Right, I don't see any other questions, if anybody, let me check the Facebook stuff here and see if I can figure that out. See if anybody has a question on Facebook. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have anything on Facebook either. So, Chief, thank you very much. We're gonna turn it over to Lieutenant Bryan Silva, who's gonna be up next.
All right, let's see if I can get this started here. First of all, thank you for having me. Let's see if I can get this to change. There we go. Here's a little bit about the Placer County Sheriff's Office and the services that we provide to the county of Placer. Obviously, we serve law enforcement for all the unincorporated areas from Sacramento County to Nevada's state line, Lake Tahoe. And we also include law enforcement services for the city of Colfax and obviously the township of Loomis. We also provide jail services, coroner's office, and court security and marshal duties with the entire county. Our mission is to maintain the quality and enjoyed life here and ensure that our county is a safe place to live, work, and visit. Our core values, I like to touch on these real quick because this is the cornerstone of the Sheriff's Office and the foundation. You'll hear many management and deputy sheriffs and sergeants speak about our core values because they're held in high regard. We will constantly strive to meet the highest standards of honesty and integrity. We are a family-centered organization committed to supporting one another. We have a pride in ourselves and take ownership of our work. All Sheriff's Office members will treat each other with dignity, courtesy, and respect, regardless of the position or assignments. This leads to identical treatment of the public that we serve. We are involved in our community and speak to become part of the world we serve. We will achieve professional performance through continual training, education, commitment to our duties. Management and subordinates are mutually accountable for their performance. And the last one, there will be no tolerance for criminal misconduct by the Sheriff's Office members on or off duty. Such conduct will be consistently be presented for legal review. Now, I'm going to leave the core values up while I comment real quick on the incident that occurred on May 25th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Is probably on the forefront of a lot of people's minds because we've seen some protests here in our county and a few in Loomis and our surrounding neighbors and cities. Every law enforcement person that I've spoken with is including myself, is horrified by the actions and shocked to conscience of myself of what occurred back there. We understand the community's outrage and their desire to protest and have their words and have their voices heard. But we would also encourage the protests to be peaceful. We can't accept violence or destruction of property. Our neighboring cities and communities, we've seen some protests that turned violent. We did receive a mutual aid request from Sacramento. And for the first few nights, we did have Placer County Sheriff's deputies down in Sacramento assisting them. The first 2 nights, we were assigned to asset protection, basically protecting buildings from being burned or looted. And one night we were assigned to protection of firefighters. They found themselves being attacked as they went to prevent fires or put out fires that had been started. They saw, the deputies that were down there saw a lot of peaceful protesters, as well as some looking to cause mayhem and destruction. For the Placer County Sheriff's Office, we had no arrest, no injuries, no uses of force. It appeared as their mere presence was enough to bring calm to the situation where they were at. In regards to local protest, we respect and encourage our community members to have their voices heard. Our entire government system is built on people having a voice. And the protesters in our county have been peaceful and respectful. And to be honest, we've been met with a thank you that we were there helping to protect their safety and the safety of the community. We're not there to take sides, just merely to keep the peace. And I'm proud of our response to several protests that we've been involved in. A question has come up regarding how is the Placer County Sheriff's Office positioned itself to prevent something like what happened in Minneapolis from happening here. And that's why I left up the core values, because this is something that this agency was built on. It goes back to retired Sheriff Ed Bonner. He created these, and it is instilled in our all of the members of the Sheriff's Office. But it starts with hiring good people, and we don't settle with mediocrity here. We hire character, and we train skills. We look for character in a candidate. Character is taught by mothers and fathers, family, coaches, teachers, and churches. They're put through a strenuous background check, and again, we look at the character of the person that we're hiring. At the academy, It's about 6 months long. They're taught about bias, racial profiling, cultural diversity, community relations, and ethics. After graduating the academy, they attend a field training, which is about 4 months, and where they're partnered with a veteran deputy, where these topics are reinforced and how they're applied here at Placer County. For our veteran deputies, every year we attend advanced officer training, where they go through training to reinforce these skills and many others, and we bring in subject matter experts to talk to our people. Training is an investment for our people, for their safety, their professionalism, and the safety of the community. We also implemented a frontline leadership program for line staff. This is principle-based decision-making and how character applies to leadership. And de-escalation is a focus of all of our use of force training. And again, I go back to the core values, and this is the backbone of our agency and has been for many years. And we hold each other to these standards. We recognize that we police our communities, because we have the consent from them. And consent is built on trust and community relationships. We work hard to build this trust, and we also recognize it's very fragile if abused. With law enforcement in general, I think we have some very challenging times in front of us. This is undeniable and unprecedented, but I believe the Placer County Sheriff's Office has positioned itself well. So that concludes my comments in regards to the protests and the incident that occurred on May 25th. Moving along, the contract services for the Township of Loomis. I'll just kind of go into so Township of Loomis pays for a half a lieutenant, that's me, and 4.25 deputies, a half a detective, and 1 traffic deputy. In total, 6.25 personnel. What actually Loomis receives is a half a deputy, half a lieutenant, 5 deputies, a half a detective, 6 patrol sergeants, 1 community service sergeant, and 1 school resource officer assigned to Del Oro, total of 14. Here's the personnel that is currently assigned to the Township of Loomis. Again, these names fluctuate. We rotate 3 times a year, and this is the current rotation, and that will go until September, where we'll rotate again. The names may stay the same, or they may change depending on who bids for the Loomis area. Out of the Loomis substation, we have a total of 97 personnel assigned out of here. 1 lieutenant, 7 sergeants, 36 deputies, 3 property crime detectives, 6 school resource officers, 1 youth and community outreach deputy, problem-oriented policing deputy, 3 community service officers, 1 administrative secretary, and 38 volunteers. With the Sheriff's Office comes our special units, which includes the Special Enforcement Team, or the SWAT team, Dive, Air Operations, which I currently oversee, K-9, Honor Guard, Hostage Negotiation Team, Marine Patrol, Mounted, EOD, or Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Search and Rescue, and the Community Services Unit, Investigations Unit, and the Off-Highway Vehicle Unit all come with the Sheriff's Office as a package. Community Services is assigned out of the Loomis substation, where we have 7 school resource officers, 2 of which are assigned to Loomis schools, serving approximately 2,400 students. Youth and Community Outreach deputy, or POP deputy, is also assigned out of here. We have a community service officer and a couple of interns that assist us. Some of the community events that we were involved in, Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Eggplant Festival, National Night Out, Right Choice Program, the Delaware Band Spectacular, etc. We also are involved in approximately 25 school events that include sporting, dances, grad night, etc. We've done 30 presentations at the schools, covering a wide variety of topics: drugs, cybersecurity, Constitution, etc. Sergeant Davis, who oversees our school resource program, has done a fantastic job of bringing in the ALICE program that deals with active shooters within our schools. And he has done presentations to all of the schools, including all of the schools in Loomis. Regarding transient complaints, with the sheriff's office, you have 4 deputies that are assigned specifically to deal with the homeless issues. They do spend a majority of their time in Auburn. However, they do come down here from time to time when needed, and they're just a phone call away. And we have a problem-oriented policing deputy that's assigned down here who can also assist. Here's a map of the Loomis area, or the Paul Beat as we call it. The pink salmon colored is actually the township. The Loomis deputy will also respond to areas that are in the green as well as the pink. That brings to the next topic, which the chief has spoke about, and that's the emergency and fires and being prepared. The Placer Alert system is a system that you can sign up for, and you can register your address and your phone number, including landlines and cell phones. So if there is an emergency in your area, and we draw out basically a parallelogram, a figure around an impacted area, we can send out an emergency message to all of the addresses and phone numbers that are registered in that area, so you can receive notification. Again, this is the Placer Alert system. And it's a wonderful system that it is one of our tools that we use when we need to start evacuations in the event of a wildland fire, or if there's something significant going on in your area. It brings me to the next part of the emergency preparedness, and that's the Hi-Low Siren. I was heavily involved in the implementation of this in my previous assignment. It began that the Hi-Low Siren is a unique tone, and I'm going to play a video for you as long as it works. It's a unique tone that began, I believe, in Sonoma County, and it was a way for law enforcement to notify people in extenuating circumstances very quickly. And it's a siren tone that's broadcast from our vehicles, that we can go into neighborhoods and play this tone as we drive through neighborhoods and alert people that they need to evacuate and evacuate immediately. This tool works in conjunction with the Placer Alert and the Everbridge platforms. And again, it's a siren that sounds from law enforcement vehicles. And the meaning behind it is that something is happening in your neighborhood and evacuations are needed immediately. So let me see if I can get this video to play. We just did this last week. And
California's wildfire season is becoming more dangerous each year. Since 2018, more than 16,000 wildfires burned over 2 million acres statewide. And when seconds count, preparation is key.
If you hear the siren, immediately evacuate.
That European-style sound is what's known as the Hi-Low Siren at the Placer County Sheriff's Office. The siren was installed in patrol units in 2019 to be used during emergency evacuations.
Before we got the Hi-Low Siren, we'd come in with our standard siren, which everybody hears every day. There's nothing unique about it, and people oftentimes, tune those sirens out. And so, not only in addition to our siren being, ignored for the most part, we would then have to go door to door. And so, with this unique sounding siren, as we arrive on scene or even a distance out, you start hearing that siren. That should be a key, an alert that there is danger in the immediate area, and you need to start making preparations to evacuate.
The Hi-Low Siren was used just last week in a Granite Bay neighborhood after a permitted burn got out of control. Fortunately, the fire didn't spread into any homes.
Time is critical, and time is what saves lives. And so the Hi-Low Siren allows us to notify, hopefully through sound, the greatest number of people in the community that are in danger.
It's the last resort when going door to door is no longer an option. But there are a few ways you and your family can be prepared in the event of an evacuation. Sign up for Placer Alert at placeralert.org. You'll get the latest information on critical incidents sent to every phone number you register, including your cell phone. You'll be alerted if an evacuation is necessary and receive instructions on where to go should you need to leave immediately. You can also follow us on our social media platforms to stay up to date with the most recent developments during emergencies.
See if I can get back to the screen now.
You're good, Brian. We can see the.
You're back on the PowerPoint?
Yep. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. See if I can get back on here. And that concludes my presentation. I would like to make one final comment and thank you to the Chief. We've worked hand in hand just a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago on some of the fires you saw there in the video. It truly is a partnership and a fantastic one at that. And I think our unity and our solidarity to the safety and service of the people of Loomis and entire Placer County starts with those types of relationships. So thank you, Chief, for being an outstanding partner.
Well, yeah, my sentiments exactly. The PCSO is great to work with, and what you guys are bringing to the response now with your drone program and your incident command training that you guys are embedded in with CAL FIRE and whatnot in the north is just helping us out too in our areas, and looking forward to continuing that partnership. So thank you so much.
So if there's any questions, I'm available.
So thank you very much, Lieutenant Silva. So we do have two questions that I saw. One is from Garrett Kittredge. He asks, is there any future plans for more training on how to control people safely when they resist arrest?
Yes. Like I said, every year the deputy sheriffs go through advanced officer training. And part of that training is de-escalation. It is a focus of all of our use of force training. So it's continual. Every year we go through it. And I'm happy to say that we exceed all areas of training, including use of force training, than is required by the police officer standards and training for California.
And then we had one more question, at least that I've seen so far. Susanna Topper says, how many hours of training are required to become a Placer County Sheriff?
We're required to go through the police officer training or the academy, which I believe is about 6 months, give or take a week or two, depending on which academy you go to. Some teach different components. Like Sacramento County, I believe, also incorporates a jail portion into their academy. So I don't know how many hours are involved in 6 months. If you could do the math, that's what the training requires to become eligible to be a deputy sheriff.
I don't see any other questions, at least on our feeds. Does the panel have any questions for Lieutenant Silva?
Hi, Lieutenant Silva. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your very thoughtful, thorough, and heartfelt presentation to our community. And, I just want you to know that we are just so proud of you and the men and women that work for the department, and we stand next to you and, value the dedication that you all have. And just wanted you to know that. Also, I wanted to congratulate one of your deputies, Eric Hinsey. He just graduated from our Loomis Leadership Academy, and also from the fire department, Catherine Medeiros. And they were great to have in the leadership Loomis class. And thank you for letting it share with having them for that. And hopefully you can send us some more for our next meeting. And also I saw some names come up on the list of people that are working in Loomis. I saw Bonner, and I think I saw Hardcastle, and I'm pretty sure I went to high school with Hardcastle, so I'm assuming these are the children of Sheriff Bonner. And so that's really, really cool to see. You mentioned that the Sheriff's Department is a family organization, and it's quite obvious that it is, and just really proud of you guys, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so if no other questions, we'll switch over and turn it over to our next panelist, which is the Director of Placer County Health and Human Services, Jeff Brown. And Jeff's going to talk to us about all of the COVID-19 stuff. So Lieutenant Silva, if you could switch off your share. There we go. Look at it. Seamless now. Seamless.
Seamless. Heard from everybody before me. So it's my pleasure to be here this morning, talk a little bit about COVID-19, and I'll try to go fast because I know you certainly have limited time, but I'm going to, let's see if I can get to the next slide. Just a little bit about communicable disease before we jump in and talk about COVID. And, there's various means that diseases can be spread. You can have foodborne diseases. We can have waterborne diseases and vector-borne diseases. COVID is a vector-borne disease. Who's the vector? People are the vector. And you can see over on the right, what we really have is human-to-human transmission. And there's different possibilities of the transmitting of COVID from one to another. I'll have to say the primary method of transmission is droplets. And then it's probably followed by airborne and indirect contact. So, all of these are possible, but the primary is droplets. You probably hear a little bit about a measure called R0 and wonder what the heck are people talking about? Well, that stands for reproduction number. And essentially, if you get an R0 represents if you get sick with the disease, on average, how many people will you infect with that disease? And for each infection, it's different. I'm going to show you a little bit of a chart, but essentially if R0's 0, the disease will die out. If you get infected and you affect one person on average, disease will not spread. It will not grow, but it's not going to decrease. And anything over 1, you're going to see some level of exponential spread. And so these are R0 values of various diseases. You can see that measles and pertussis is actually much more infectious than COVID. The flu is really not that infectious overall, but you can see here that COVID is estimated to be more infectious than the flu. this number is based on an unvaccinated population with no mitigation measures in place. And so you can actually influence R naught. And at one point in California, when COVID started passing through in early March, our R naught value was standing roughly at about 4. And in New York City and in Wuhan, China, R naught actually went up to about 6. So every person, that was infecting on average 6 individuals. And our R naught value actually, with the stay-at-home order, dropped below 1. So we actually, when people were staying home, we weren't infecting anyone. When we started to reopen, we started passing along more infection, and our R naught value is sitting a little over 1 right now. They estimate it's about 1.08. And so I show this chart, just talking about person-to-person spread. You can see the person in the circle would be an infected person. They're not going to infect everyone they come in contact with, but they're going to infect a certain percentage. And then, as you can see, this is where you get the exponential transfer of those other individuals starting to infect other people. And this is a state graph that the governor used recently. And this was based on an R naught of 2.5. So every person infected will infect roughly 2.5 individuals. And you can see if that goes without any mitigation measures put in place in 30 days, you could see 406 people infected as a result of one initial COVID positive contact. If you can cut that exposure in half, you can see it's exponential. So if you just don't cut that number of people infected in 30 days by half, you actually reduce it by a huge factor down to 15. If you can reduce that initial exposure to a number of, essentially an R naught number of less than 1, here it's 0.625, then you can see at the end of 30 days, it's just a couple of individuals. So it can be very, very significant. If we can reduce our exposure up front, we can really have great impact down the pipeline. Another number people hear about is herd immunity, percentage of the population that needs to be infected to really stop further infection. And it's actually a measure of this R naught number. It's a mathematical formula. And if we take an R naught between 2.5 and 5.7, basically says we need to get somewhere between 60 to 80% of our population either vaccinated and or infected. And so as you can see, I say it can be achieved through vaccinations or infection. There's been some experiments out there in Sweden. They decided, let's not shut society down. Let's just allow businesses to remain fully open. Let's see what happens. Maybe we can, get some level of herd immunity just by infection. And what they've been able to achieve so far in the first 4 to 6 months is they've gotten about 7.5% of their population's been infected. So I offer this as an example just to say that to get to 60% to 82%, it's a long road. And if we try to do it through infection rather than vaccinations, going to be a lot of illness and a lot of death before we get to that magical 60 to 82% number. So what public health tools do we have to battle disease outbreaks? These are pretty old tools. Social distancing works really well, in terms of stopping disease spread. Doesn't work very well for keeping your society operating over the long haul. Testing, contact tracing, quarantine, and isolation. And then there's a new tool that's coming forward, and I'll talk a little bit about it, face masks. But, social distancing dates back to the 5th century. They mention it in the Old Testament, talk about isolating populations due to leprosy. And it works, but it's a rough tool. I threw this slide in here because I know there's lots of questions about what's the power of the health officer. Well, the health officer, a non-elected official, has a huge amount of power during a communicable disease outbreak. May take whatever measures as necessary to prevent and control the spread of disease. This has been challenged all the way to state Supreme Courts, and it has been upheld. And why is this sit in statute? Well, we're trying to get someone that has knowledge of a situation that can really apply science to trying to protect the larger population. And so that's what our health officer, Dr. Sisson, is doing right now. One of the things you hear the term contact tracing. And a lot of people are worried there's going to be a huge violation of my privacy. The goal of contact tracing is not to violate people's privacy. It's actually trying to help people identify if they're infected. It's trying to move them, to isolate them, quarantine them if they are infected, try to focus on getting them better and getting them back into the workplace and back to their families. So you can see here, this is a visual from the state of Washington, but really starts on number 2. You know, it's a part of a paradigm of you move forward, test widely. When someone's identified as having the disease, you try to isolate them so that they don't infect other people. Try to talk with them about who they've had contact with and identify those contacts, reach out to them, try to get those individuals tested to see if they're showing signs of disease. If so, get them isolated, and we work and try to identify their contacts. Very cyclical, but if you do it well, you know, as they use the term in the state of Washington, you can box in the virus and actually control it. I don't want to go through this in great detail, but I'll just say over on one side here, you've got testing for coronavirus. This is that first leg. Then we have a case investigation to really try to ascertain where people have been and trying to identify contacts. And then we try to get them into medical care. And then on the next page, we go into contact tracing, where we again try to find out if people have symptoms, try to get them out of circulation. If they don't have places to go, we try to get them into hotels. If they have certain needs around medications, needs around food, we try to get those taken care of while they're potentially in quarantine or isolation for up to 14 days. Get a question, seasonal flu versus COVID. Aren't they about the same? Well, they're really not the same. As I showed before, COVID's more infectious than the flu, but it's also more deadly. And I have to say the death rates, people really don't know. Seems like every 2 weeks we have a new study on this, but it just seems like the best research shows that it could be 6 to 10 times higher than the flu. What else makes it different? Well, we don't have a vaccine yet. Hopefully this time next year we will have a vaccine, and we have more therapeutics for the flu than we have for COVID, although we do have a few promising medications right now. The other thing I'll mention here is, you know, we've lost over 120,000 people currently with COVID. A lot of models predict by the time we're done with this, that number could go up to 200,000. And that's much, much more infectious than what you would see in a typical flu season. So why were people so worried about COVID when it came out of the gate? Well, it skyrocketed in terms of deaths. Now, when you look at this curve for the United States, you know, it only goes up through May 11th, May 17th. This really, a lot of the rise was on the East Coast. It was New York City, it was New Jersey, it was Massachusetts. And this, if you look at this red line up here, you can see it greatly exceeds anything we see like car crashes or the flu. Unfortunately, it hasn't come down. It's actually kind of plateaued across here at this 25 to 30,000 band right here. So it's dropped in the states on the Eastern Seaboard quite rapidly, but in a lot of other states, cases are actually rising. Death rates are relatively flat, and we're not seeing, I'll show you a graph here in just a little bit. It's just not rapidly decreasing like we wished it would. So this is what we're looking at worldwide, 9 million cases, about 500,000 deaths. Unfortunately, we've lost 122,000. This was as of Monday in the United States. And to put all this in perspective, you know, we're seeing roughly about a little over 25% of the world's infection and about 25% of the world's deaths. And we only have a little over 4% of the world's population. So we're not actually weathering this very well right now. Now, those numbers could change a little bit because India, which is the second largest country in the world, we're the third largest country, they have yet to see the full impacts of COVID. So one would expect that our percentage rate will drop as cases and deaths in India rise, but still significantly higher rates of infection and deaths in the United States. Now in California, we never had that huge peak like they had in New York and New Jersey, but they came way, way down. There are not numbers like 0.68 right now. They're not transmitting infection like we are. And we have plateaued. And we're actually starting to go up a little bit. So, you know, we wish we were going down. Placer County timeline, just to give you, we had the first death in California, one of the first deaths in the United States. And that was on March 4th. We had a couple of orders that went into place, including the governor's stay-at-home order on March 19th. And then the governor issued a pandemic roadmap, which was essentially, how do we reopen society and allow businesses to go back to work again? That was opened on April 4th, which gave some guidance about how they were going to allow counties to start to open up businesses. We applied for a variance to be one of the first counties to reopen stage 2 businesses on May 12th. We were one of the first 4 counties in California that were allowed to open businesses. Here's the governor's roadmap, and it has 4 stages. You've probably all seen this. And essentially trying to open up the stages early that were lower risk, move to higher risk workplaces in stage 3. And then stage 4 was the end of the stay-at-home order. And originally the governor said, we're not moving to stage 4 until we have therapeutics. And I'll give you an update on that a little bit further on. Higher risk workplaces. We are in stage 3 in Placer County. We moved to open most of our stage 3 workplaces last Friday. And so you can see here, we have personal care, hair, nail salons, gyms, movie venues, with sports without live audience, and then in-person religious services, churches, weddings. There are some restrictions on sizes of crowds, but they have been opened up. You can see here, stage 4, concerts, convention centers, live audience, sports. So we don't have news on those at this point in time. You know, stage 2 businesses we opened back in May, and it was a lot of our businesses, including manufacturing, our retail, office-based businesses, restaurants is very big. We actually regulate those in our Health and Human Services Department. And then the stage 3 businesses I mentioned, the nail salons, hair salons, gyms. I talked about in-person religious services and protests with limits on numbers, professional sports without audience. And just recently they've opened up athletic conditioning and drills for amateur sports, youth. And then weddings, you can get married, but you can't have a big reception. So limits to everything. For us to move in to get essentially, for us to get our variants accepted by the state, we had to put indicators in place that basically said when our data shows that our infection is increasing at a rate that might potentially be unsustainable, at what point are we going to consider reimposing restrictions? So we came up with 2 sets of indicators, epidemiological and healthcare indicators. And here you can see some of them: doubling of time of cases, you know, increasing number of new healthcare worker infections, whether or not we have adequate supplies of PPE and in our hospital surge capacity. And then public health indicators is our ability to really do the contact tracing and have enough facilities to isolate and quarantine individuals. So this is where we stood yesterday. 534 cases. You can see down here, the majority of our cases actually are in South Placer. If you look at this graph here, it's a little hard to see on your screen, but you can see that first little wave we had in March, and then we essentially shut down society very, very well. And you can see we didn't have many cases. We were looking at 2 cases a day, 3 cases a day, 5 cases a day. And then as we started to open up in May with our moving into stage 2 and moving into stage 3, and you can see our cases have gone up and significant increases. You can see though, a couple of good things here. Our death count is only 10. And we did have a death earlier this week, unfortunately. But prior to that, we had held at 9 for over a month, and small numbers of people in our hospitals. So this again is a different chart. This is our daily count that shows how many cases that are confirmed every day. The bad news is 2 weeks, our cases have gone up 80%. They've almost doubled. So that's the bad news. Good news though is that hospitals continue to have adequate capacity, critical care beds, you know, ventilators, personal protective equipment. So that, you know, that delay we took when we really shut down and stayed at home allowed us to put a lot of measures in place that will hopefully sustain us during the next phase of the virus. Test positivity is a rate that talks about, you know, of all the tests that we do in a day, how many come back positive. A lot of people say, well, you're only getting more positive cases because you're testing more. Well, we are testing more, but test positivity tries to control and basically says if this number starts to go up, you know, to 6, 8, 10%, it shows we've got increasing infection. The state kind of uses a number, it's 8% kind of being a cutoff line. So we're still fortunately staying under that 8% level, but we're still increasing. As you can see, at one point, we were down to less than 1%. So our attestation triggers, remember, these are the indicators that if they start to go bad, we need to think about moving back to a different stage in terms of the reopening of businesses. all of our numbers are good right now. So we are not close to pulling the trigger on any of these measures, which is very good. The state also has a list of monitoring metrics that are a little bit different, where they're trying to look at counties around the state and say, who's starting to see trends that are very troubling, and how can we come in and try to work those counties to try to bolster them, provide them with technical assistance, supplies, to get them back to a better place where they can manage. And you can see I have one indicator in red. This is our case rate per 100,000. It's gone up to 53. Now, you can see, ideally, this is going to be less than 25. Put us on the state monitoring list until the second indicator goes up to 8%, which is our testing positivity rate. These two indicators go together. So as long as it stays under 8%, we're fine. If this goes over 8%, and it is increasing today, then we're on the state's monitoring list. There's about, it's ranged anywhere between 9 and 13 counties on the state's monitoring list. I want to talk just for a moment about reopen Placer. You know, if we're really going to be successful as a county and as a community in reopening in a safe and healthy manner, we're going to all have to work together to make this happen. And so it's really important that we work proactively with our businesses and help them really understand what the state's guidance is around reopening and look at some of the restrictions that are placed on businesses. But how do they put some of the measures in place to safely protect their workers and safely protect their clientele? So Reopen Placer is a collaborative effort, really comes out of economic development in the CEO's office in Placer County, but it works in conjunction with the local chambers of commerce in the cities, and really trying to look at that guidance, trying to proactively educate our community and try to see what their needs are, each individual business, and try to help them be as successful as they can in the reopening. And there's a website here that people can go to, but it has a lot of resources available for businesses, everything from posters they can put on their windows to some checklists about what they really need to have in place in terms of protocols, in terms of training for their employees, in terms of personal protective equipment for some of their employees, and what they need to do to make some alterations in their business to make it safe. I've gone pretty fast, but you know, I said I'd talk a little bit about therapeutics. Well, there's a lot of hope on the horizon. We have in the United States and around the world, we have 276 medications as of today that are in development. Some of them are existing medications that they're looking to see if they would have a therapeutic effect to treat individuals with COVID. And some are absolutely brand new medications that are designed as antivirals solely against COVID. We have 186 in human trials. You know, 3 are currently being utilized, early approval. A lot of people have heard the word remdesivir. It's a product made in California by Gilead out of the Bay Area that actually has shown to be effective. It's not the silver bullet, but for people that are infected, it actually does reduce the course of their illness and does increase survival. There's a treatment called Convalescent Plasma, essentially taking blood plasma for individuals that have had COVID and refining that and injecting it into individuals. Some of that research looks very good. It's hard to get that product though. You know, you have to really target people that have had COVID and get them to donate blood. And then some information came out less than a week ago around an anti-inflammatory dexamethasone, which for people that have very serious infection in their immune system is over responding to the infection. It's actually shown to be a lifesaver. So 3 early on, but you can see many more coming. They're, what are they? A lot of them are antivirals, but there's a whole host of different methods they're trying to develop to really address disease with COVID. In terms of vaccine, 144 being studied right now are in development. 20 are already in human trials. I mean, they're trying to move this forward at an incredibly rapid rate. Usually takes at least 2 to 4 years to come up with a solid vaccine. So people are very optimistic, even at the CDC. Originally, they didn't think they would have a candidate for 2 years. Now they're speaking optimistically of having something by the end of the year. Now that might be an effective vaccine, but then you need to think, well, if we have an effective vaccine, what's it take to get it out to the public And, when you're trying to push out 300 doses of vaccine, that's going to be quite a logistical exercise. So Operation Warp Speed is a federal initiative to really invest a significant amount of dollars and resources into developing a vaccine. Their goal right now is 300 million doses by January 31st, 2020. And they've really narrowed down 3 vaccines they're looking at right now. One is made by Moderna in Boston. It's already in phase 2/3. There's another one that's being developed in the UK. The United States is invested in this, made by AstraZeneca, Oxford University. And then there's a third one with Johnson & Johnson, which is only in phase 1 trials right now. But those are 3 that the US government is really investing in. You have countries all over the world that are investing in some of these other vaccines. And the goal is it's probably not just going to be one vaccine, probably going to be many vaccines that are going to get out there. But there's a lot of hope here that within the next 12 months, vaccines will be available, they will be effective, and they will be pushed out to the general public and hopefully, soon. So last thing I'm going to end on is face coverings. People have probably had a lot of questions regarding this. Governor mandated this last week on June 18th and basically required this in most public spaces, including while taking public transportation, medical care, shopping, most work scenarios. Exceptions, kids under 2, when you're in a restaurant, you have a medical condition that would preclude it. So this is what's coming forward. I'll just say this about face coverings. Unfortunately, they become a political statement. And I look at face coverings as potentially a medical and public health intervention. There's a large amount of research out there. Initially, they weren't promoted and at the onset of the pandemic. But since then, they've had a lot more people infected in a lot of countries, particularly in Asia, where they do use face coverings. And I have to say in the last 30 days, the evidence is very, very positive. And so you can see I'm wearing one, maybe you can't see, but I'm wearing one today. And I use it here in the office. I say they're recommended by the CDC, they're recommended by the Mayo Clinic. And I think everyone, you can make your own decisions, but the goal really with a face covering is my face covering protects you, your face covering protects me. And our goal is really that individuals use face coverings as much as possible as one of the few tools that we have to try to respect other individuals, protect our elderly and people at risk, and really try to help allow us to continue to open up businesses and maintain the infection at a level of control that our medical system can handle so that we can work our way through this COVID pandemic until we have therapeutics and allow us to actually make this an item of the past. And the last item I will just say, we are in a serious pandemic. It does require changes and sacrifices and patience to protect our families and our community. I'm convinced that if we work together, we can certainly open more businesses and we can have more success as we try to get to the end of this. There is hope in terms of therapeutics, both medications and vaccines. And then I will say all vaccines have a beginning and an end. The 1918 Spanish flu was, it lasted for about 1.5 years, 2 years, but it did end. And every pandemic since then is at an end. I think for a lot of people, this seems like it's endless and it's frustrating and it's anxiety producing, but we will get to this, and hopefully by this time next year, we'll look at this as a historical relic. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I'm gonna switch over and ask some of the questions that have been coming in that I've seen on Facebook and stuff. So I'm gonna do those, and then we will turn it over to the panelists for some questions as well. So, Jeff, the first question I have is from Susanna Tupper. She says, what are our current testing numbers, and where do they need to be to be effective?
Well, right now, our testing, we have the capacity that we need. The state wanted us to have the ability to do roughly anywhere between 650 to 800 tests a week, or a day, I'm sorry. And we have the ability to do that. We received actually 2 Optum care sites from the state. We have one in Tahoe, located on the grounds of Tahoe Forest Hospital. We have another site at the Rockland Library, and the public is using those sites. Each hospital has their own lab associated with them. And then private practitioners, usually if they do testing in their offices, they send individuals to private labs. They can send them to either LabCorp or any of the other private labs that have capacity. And so right now, testing is not a major issue with us. We have the capacity and we do have the numbers right now that are allowing us to be successful.
Okay. Excuse me. Question from Bonnie London. We're still in our first wave with people spending lots of time outdoors. Is there emergency planning being done for the fall and winter when the flu will be co-circulating with COVID?
Well, I will say our major preparations, it'll be very important for individuals to get vaccinated for the flu this year. COVID most likely will be here when the flu is here, and that's only going to confuse a very difficult situation that we have right now. So trying to get people to stay as healthy as possible. I think some of the social distancing measures that we put in place with COVID will actually reduce the spread of the flu also. One thing we're doing as part of our public health efforts is we're really trying to ramp up our contact tracing ability and our disease investigation ability. We have 60 individuals right now that we've identified, we've trained, and we have a number of them already working, and we're going to be adding individuals as of Monday to really have that full capacity. We're looking at really using our contact tracers. Some of them are part-time help. We're having them work a couple of days, 2 to 3 days a week, and having people work 7 days a week, and having the ability to really increase those efforts if our numbers increase. So that's our focus right now. We're also working right now on planning regarding vaccinations. We ran through this with H1N1 about a decade ago. I don't know if any of you remember that, but we had huge numbers of vaccination campaigns, usually held in school gyms. And we're already starting to look at planning about what would it be like to try to push out a vaccine and get our 385,000 residents vaccinated. So those are efforts we are working on.
Another question about Sweden. So Sweden is often brought up as a model to look at since they didn't order strict measures. How has Sweden fared economically compared to its neighbors who have begun to reopen?
I think Sweden probably has fared better because they really never shut down any of their businesses. So economically, I think they fared better. I think the trade-off with Sweden was they had very, very high death rates in their high-risk population, so the elderly and people that are disabled. So they've actually had some of the highest death rates in Europe right now. So they made that decision. I'm not sure they regret the decision. Some people do, some people don't, but all of the individuals in Sweden will acknowledge that they did not prepare well enough to protect their vulnerable populations. But in terms of the economy, I don't think they saw the significant impacts that many of the other Western countries and Asian countries have experienced.
Okay. Another question from Bonnie London. The governor recently received approval to withhold CARES relief funds from counties who are non-compliant with Department of Public Health recommendations. Is this something we should be concerned about in Placer, and how much funding is at stake?
Well, the CARES allocation for Placer County has been estimated at $40 million. And a huge amount of those dollars are going to be needed to offset some of our costs in public health, public protection that have already been spent in responding to this pandemic. So those dollars could be at risk if our county decided not to follow the governor's stay-at-home order and some of the other public health orders that have happened since he imposed the stay-at-home order. There's also some realignment backfill dollars that are coming in the budget to counties to cover some of the losses in sales tax dollars. And I saw some budget trailer bill language last night that said that if counties did not follow the governor's stay-at-home order, that those dollars could be in jeopardy also. Those dollars are not to the level of $40 million, but it's certainly multiple millions of dollars in terms of realignment support that both Health and Human Services and Public Protection receive each year through sales tax realignment.
Okay. A question from, this just says Brockman. Please have the Health and Human Services speaker address that just because we are having more cases, medical experts are finding that the virus is weakening, meaning that many people who have tested positive are asymptomatic or have mild symptoms. Placer County data seems to support this, higher cases but fewer hospitalizations and deaths.
Yeah, I don't think there's any evidence to show the virus is weakening, but in response to that, the majority of people now that are being infected are younger people that do have mild symptoms or are asymptomatic. They do estimate that up to a third of all individuals infected are asymptomatic. And so during the first wave of the virus, we did have more people that were infected that were older. And so the death rates were much higher. And that's where we're actually seeing more success here in Placer County. We see younger people being infected, but we are not overwhelming the hospitals yet. And certainly our death rates have not skyrocketed. The one thing I do warn though is anytime we get an infection in a nursing home or in any type of congregate living facility or in the jail, then it's risky because this is an infectious disease. It does spread quite easily. And so knock on wood, I think we've been very fortunate in Placer and it's been managed very well, but we're not out of the woods yet. That's all I would say. And if you look today, you can read any news article you'd like, but infection rates are going up in 28 counties around the United States right now. So I think there was the hope that when the season warmed up that we would see infection rates die off and we would see the curve kind of bottom out and we'd wait for another peak. But in the United States, we're still in the first wave, unfortunately. And some states that were hit early on are seeing a decrease in infection, particularly on the Eastern coast. But you see some of the Western states and you see California, and we are increasing infection right now.
I don't see any other questions, at least on Facebook and on the Zoom call. Do the panelists have any questions?
I do. Thank you, Jeff, so much for an extremely thorough presentation. Appreciate all of the work that you're doing. And I really did want to make sure everybody understands how hard and how fast your department did working on our variants. And I believe we found out about the opportunity to get that variance on a Friday or Thursday. And I know that all of you worked all weekend long and to get that done. And so it was just wanted to hats off to you guys for doing that. I'd appreciate it. Second question is, you mentioned we could potentially be on the state monitoring list. What does that look like? What would it look like if we had to go backwards? Have you talked about that? Would it be,
I think it would be very difficult to go backwards.
Yeah.
All of the counties on the state monitoring list to this point in time have not gone backwards at this point in time. So they're receiving, as a result of being on the monitoring list, they're receiving more contact tracers, they're receiving educational materials, they're receiving epidemiological support. So the goal is to try to strengthen their effort, not necessarily to roll backwards, but it really depends on do we have enough capacity to treat people in our hospitals, and do we have enough capacity in our public health department to do the testing and the disease investigation, the contact tracing. As long as we can keep those two pillars in place and keep them strong, I think we'll be fine. If we get overwhelmed, it's what happened early on back in early March, and that's when we went to a stay-at-home order because we just could not keep up with the contact tracing. Very worried about having the ability to deal with COVID cases in the hospital. And so that's, that's worst case scenario. That's what you would see. Some type of rollback to some potential reducing access to certain businesses and even potentially another stronger stay-at-home order. And I think we're all hoping and keeping our fingers crossed that we never have to go there.
Thank you.
Have any other questions for Jeff? Great. Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate the presentation. So we have a video from our one of our chamber members, Chris Hebert Summers, who's going to be doing a video for us. Hang on for 1 second.
Hello everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Hubbard Summers. I'm the third generation owner of our family's small insurance business here in Loomis, California. Just like so many of you, I've spent a fair amount of time over the past several months thinking about how I could help other small businesses in my local community. I've supported our local restaurants and our breweries and our wineries by picking up to-go orders and purchasing gift cards. But in my gut, I knew that we somehow needed to do more. I just didn't know how we could possibly do anything that would make any kind of difference. And then it suddenly came to me. I'm constantly hearing and reading that the majority of us are disenchanted with most of our consumer dollars going to large corporations. COVID has really shone the light on this phenomenon. Thousands of us flocked to Walmart, Sam's Clubs, Costco's, Home Depot's, Lowe's, and Amazon daily, while we watched our neighbors' small businesses struggle to remain alive during the shutdown. We endured supply chain issues not only with our durable goods like toilet paper, but with our food supply as well. When I grew up in Loomis, our family raised most of our food on our little 3-acre farm. What we didn't grow, raise, or sow, we purchased at our local small businesses. Lumber for building products at True Value, medicines for both people and animals at Main Drug, appliances from Nelthorpe's, and even our Levi's from the Loomis Mutual. In fact, we only ventured into the big city a couple of times a year for school shopping. This meant that Loomis and our neighboring towns thrived, and a strong local economy not only builds relationships that last a lifetime, it also puts dollars back into the community by allowing businesses to support both local youth and family activities. So I've made a choice. I'm going to spend my dollars with small business whenever I can. Will I pay more? Maybe. Will it take more of my time? Possibly. Is it everything I need available locally? Maybe not. But other small businesses throughout the country are at my fingertips. The time I spend doing a couple of extra keystrokes will be appreciated much more than any one-click shopping I do. You may be asking, where do I start? Here are a few examples. My daughter wanted a hummingbird feeder for her new home and was ready to do the one-click thing when I mentioned that both Foothill Feed and Isley's had numerous choices. She ended up finding dog food at Foothill Feed, the bird feeder at Isley's, and stopped at Auburn Ace Hardware for paint. Of course, all of this happened after she picked up her locally produced food at Auburn's Farmers Market. You and I can make a difference by supporting our local small businesses. We can change the landscape of our community. We can build relationships and help each other one purchase at a time. Our family has remained committed to our local community for 6 generations. We are customers, we contribute and help with many of the area's nonprofits. However, until now, I never really heard my grandpa's words louder or clearer. Take care of your community, and they will take care of you.
That was very sage words from one of our most long-term citizens. Thank you very much for that. So next up on our agenda is actually the State of the Town presentation from our Mayor, Jan Clark-Kretz. And so Jan, I'm going to turn it over to you for that address.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our State of the Town address. Thank you to our 3 keynote speakers, Lieutenant Bryan Silva, Chief Eric Walder, and Jeff Brown. And thank you so much for all the work that you do. We are incredibly blessed to have the wonderful men and women who work for your agencies, and we are in great hands with you all. I urge all of you to please sign up for the plaster alert that we saw. It's incredibly beneficial for all of the people in our community and surrounding areas to know when these alerts are happening, so please definitely sign up for that. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the first responders and the medical staff that have been working with the coronavirus for months. These people are putting their lives on the line every day. Thank you to the doctors, the nurses, the physician's assistants, the medical assistants, and all of the hospital workers. Thank you to our own Loomis Medical Clinic. They have been triaging people outside in complete garb when necessary, and definitely thank you so much for taking such good care of the people in our community. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that my town address would be held here at the depot with 2 other people in the room because of the coronavirus. When I ran for town council, I certainly never had an idea that a global pandemic would happen in my lifetime, let alone my term in office. I know all of you feel the same way. It has been a doozy of a year. 2020 will go into the record books as a year of unprecedented challenges: a global pandemic, shelter-in-place order, economic shutdown, school closures, empty store shelves with limited supplies, along with much uncertainty and fear. If that wasn't enough during this already difficult time, we faced further anguish by the senseless deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Our already fragile country was thrust into protests and civil unrest. It certainly has felt like our world has been turned upside down. Today, I would like to dive a little deeper and discuss the events of the last 3 months and how our town and surrounding areas have weathered the storm. I'll also talk about our future and some of the really good things happening in Loomis. I'm going to start by saying that the people of the town of Loomis are strong, resilient, inspiring, generous, creative, and supportive. Your sacrifices of sheltering in place certainly helped flatten the curve of COVID-19 and helped prepare our medical providers for a potential surge in our hospitals. The last 3 months of upheaval has really prepared us all to better fight the virus. The state of the town of Loomis is healthy, solid, vibrant, and promising. The town of Loomis declared a state of local emergency on March 17th, and from that point on, things shifted into crisis mode. As information poured in and orders were given, it was extremely hard to keep up with the changes that were necessary to be made. But our town staff did an exemplary job of pivoting and reorganizing. We are so fortunate to have a wonderful group of people working for our town. The last 3 months have been difficult to say the least, but our town staff has not stopped doing the critically important work of keeping our town operational. Under the leadership of our town manager, Sean Rabe, we were able to keep town hall functioning remotely, with safety being the #1 concern. While we adjusted our workforce to work in the COVID world, much was accomplished by our town staff. I would like to say a job well done to all of the people that work for our town during these chaotic times. The Placer County Board of Supervisors, under the leadership of Board Chair Bonnie Gore and the County Health Officer, Dr. Amy Sisson, have been crucial partners during this crisis, and we appreciate the hard work that all of the supervisors and the health department have done. I have been meeting with local leaders from other jurisdictions and the county on a weekly basis, and this communication has proven to be incredibly helpful. Also of great help was the valuable assistance from Assemblyman Kevin Kiley and his office. As we have been trying to get businesses up and running, we really appreciate your partnership with that. Again, thank you, Jeff Brown, for a very detailed update. We humans have to figure out how to deal with life and work with this horrible virus. We are not out of the woods yet, but the truth is we need to understand how best to be safe in this COVID environment. The governor recently passed an executive order that requires wearing face coverings while in any public place. This order was given because the virus spreads quickly through respiratory droplets, and when you speak, cough, or just breathe, these droplets are spread out into the air. We must be prepared for anything. So please consider wearing those face masks, especially in public places. At the onset of the crisis, it was very apparent to us that communication to our citizens was of the utmost importance, and we needed to make important improvements immediately. The town implemented its new information email platform, MailChimp, and continues to send out informational email campaigns. These are also archived with the ability to go back and look at previous email campaigns. We are also now using this platform for emailing the agenda. And this is solving an ongoing problem people were having by not getting those emails. I strongly encourage all of our residents to please sign up for those emails. You can do that on the town website homepage, loomis.ca.gov. These email campaigns are being used as the town's notification system for important information. And as of yesterday, the town had just under 2,200 email addresses in the system. Nearly 50% of the recipients are opening the COVID-19 emails. The town also created a new town Facebook page. It's specifically for town information, and I strongly encourage folks to follow that page so all information is in one place and isn't diluted by other posts. Posts are cross-posted to the various Loomis community groups, Loomis Community Post, Loomis Chit Chat, Loomis Friendly Neighborhood and Community, and Neighbors of Loomis, California. In just the past month, posts on the town's Facebook page have reached nearly 2,700 people. People have engaged, liked, commented, or shared with the post nearly 1,000 times. Those numbers don't include the cross-postings to other groups. Town staff began the update of our website in mid-March, and we will be launching the new site tomorrow. Our town staff has done an outstanding job of working with our consultant on the new site. And the new site brings a fresh new look and a more customer-focused approach to the town's website and is a much needed improvement. The public counter hours at Town Hall remain 9 a.m. to noon, Monday through Thursday. Building inspections continue as well. We've seen a slight drop-off on inspections after the initial backlog was caught up, and all other town facilities remain closed to the public. The expiration of the countywide health order has allowed the town's focus to shift from planning for the phased reopening of our local economy in partnership with the county, healthcare, business, and other stakeholders, as well as regional and state partners. More can be found at the county's Reopen Placer website that Jeff mentioned, and I will also come back to this in a bit. At our last town council meeting on June 9th, we approved our 2020-2021 budget, which has already been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. We are anticipating a deficit position over the next year. The biggest unknown for us is our sales tax revenue and the fact that the governor has issued a one-year moratorium on paying those sales taxes. We will know more about sales tax funding as we go through quarter to quarter. While we are showing a deficit for this year, we, due to solid, prudent, and conservative fiscal planning over many years, we are financially sound and should come through this shortfall relatively unscathed, barring any unforeseen circumstances. I will be planning a Meet the Mayor Monday in July. And if our COVID environment allows, I would like to have it in person versus a Zoom meeting, and may hold this meeting outside at the library under the oak trees. And those that wish to attend can bring their own chairs and we will socially distance. Our town manager, Sean Robay, will also be starting up his Town Manager Tuesdays next month, and he will continue to have those monthly meetings in the future. Some might say we saw a June miracle with the demolition of the gun store. It was great to see that eyesore and bone of contention destroyed and gone. Good riddance. I'm sure that you all noticed that we have a street project going on here in downtown. Taylor Road Phase 3 work began on Monday, June 11th, for a 91-day project. It's expected to be done October 12th. A section of Taylor Road will be resurfaced with an overlay. Sidewalks added and the bike trail extended on Taylor Road from Horseshoe Bar Road to King on the Taylor's side of the road, and then Taylor Road from Del Oro to the town limits on Del Oro's side of the road. Lanes will remain open in both directions. Check out the Loomis Basin Chamber website and the I Dig Loomis page so that you can get more details on this exciting project. The final environmental impact report for Costco will be released this Friday. We have the first public hearing for this project on July 7th at a special Planning Commission workshop. I urge the citizens of Loomis to please participate in this process so that the Planning Commission can hear your opinions and concerns. While we strongly encourage residents to participate in the meeting by emailing comments or watching the town's live YouTube channel and using the live commenting function, we have rented out the Blue Goose for this meeting for those who'd rather present in person. As is our new normal now, we will have strict safety rules, and these are put into place to provide for proper distancing. So all people that will be entering the Blue Goose for public comment will be required to wear a face mask. And this is based on the state of California's recent requirements that we've been hearing about. Please stay tuned for more important guidance on this very, very important meeting. The general plan is still in the planning processes. Just before the shutdown, we had several workshops planned that actually had to be eventually canceled. The town has sent out proposals for both the housing and land use element. At our next town council meeting, we will hear an update on the general plan process and receive updated schedule. We will strive to include updates regarding our general plan update at all of our upcoming Planning Commission meetings and town council meetings. I want to assure everybody that in order to go through this process, we are definitely having robust public comment. We will find a safe way to get your valuable input into this process. I would like to thank my fellow council members for their leadership and counsel. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Jeff Duncan, council members Rhonda Morales, Bryan Baker, and Tim Underko. Our council meetings have been different every single time over the last 3 months, and I appreciate your flexibility as we try to ensure everyone's safety while assuring participation with all of the changes. Each of us on the council have been busy helping citizens and businesses navigate through this complicated time. Thank you for working together as we urged our state to open up business safely. Hopefully, we can stay on a positive course if COVID allows. I look forward to refocusing on our strategic goals that we set in place last year. I would also like to thank Ken Benedict for all of your skillful technological know-how. It's great to have you on our team. Let's talk about our library. At this point, the library the doors aren't they're not open right now, but what they do have is curbside service. And even though the doors have been closed, the library staff has been working really, really hard, providing virtual services and planning all sorts of fun ways to include reading and learning in the COVID world. Right now, you can join the Summer Reading Challenge, and please check back often with our library as we go through the reopening process. We have the most amazing people that live in our town. I am certain that every single one of our citizens supported our community in some way or another during this crisis, whether it was buying gift cards at struggling businesses or sewing masks. The presence of such great generosity was a ray of shining hope during these dark times. Some of the silver linings that I will never forget was the anonymous donors that purchased gift cards at our local restaurants and gave them to those in need. Someone in our town started the Loomis birthday train, which brought a ray of sunshine to so many kids during the shelter-in-place order. Most recently, it was a proud moment to see our Loomis citizens come out to the Loomis blood drive, which ended up receiving 37 pints of precious blood for those that need it. This is another excellent example of our locals helping the lives of others, because not only were our citizens generous enough to give their blood, one of our amazing local businesses purchased gift cards at local restaurants and gave them to some of the donors. How cool is that? Thank you to all of our service clubs. The Seroptimists jumped into action quickly and started to sew masks for people and businesses. Thank you to the Heritage Foundation for your generosity during this crisis. You are so supportive of local businesses, and thank you for co-sponsoring the blood drive. Our local Lions Club stayed in touch via Zoom, which was a great way to stay connected and continue their good work and mission to helping others in need. All of our service groups should be commended for the philanthropic work that they do on an ongoing basis. Let's talk about our most precious members of our town, our children. My, how your lives changed in an instant. No more school, no more teachers, no friends, staying at home with the parents. Thank you, Loomis students, for being so resilient. I know this has been incredibly hard. Our local schools went into action immediately and shut down with safety as their #1 concern. I cannot say enough about our local school leaders, administrators, and teachers. To go from a physical school to a virtual school was quite a feat. Parents and teachers had to become technological experts and then had to create new ways for the virtual lessons. According to Loomis School District Superintendent Gordon Med, elementary school families should hear what their options are for school this fall after tomorrow's board meeting. The Loomis Union School District has been very busy planning and arranging for a school year that may be a bit different than what you're used to. The district has been in constant contact with our county health officer as they plan for what's ahead. Congratulations to the Delaware class of 2020. I know that you did not have the senior year that you wanted, and I am so sorry about that. What I suspect, though, is that you 2020 grads will be doing great things in the midst of all this upheaval and in the future. And when people ask you what year you graduated, you will always be able to answer with the unique set of challenges that you overcame. We know that you are capable of great things, class of 2020, and we can't wait to see what you accomplish. Our senior citizens have been amongst those hit the hardest by this virus. Not only are they our most vulnerable, but they have been isolated for so long and will need to continue to do so. If you can, please reach out to any seniors that you know and offer assistance, or just a call on the phone might make their day. Our Loomis Senior Center has been closed, but the center is still checking on the seniors and sending out meals. Of special note, a local restaurant using donated money arranged for a special meal for 40 or 50 seniors. This is just another example of our generous community and business partners. Let's talk about business. Early on in the crisis, we created the Loomis Emergency Business Task Force, which was a partnership with the town and the Loomis Basin Chamber of Commerce. Working with the chamber, we had lofty goals. Chamber directors and members volunteered to call as many businesses as they could, reaching out to offer help and create some avenue of communication. Our volunteers spent many hours helping businesses in need. We are extremely grateful to the work of the Loomis Basin Chamber of Commerce and its board of directors. The town and the chamber had weekly calls with our local restaurants, which birthed the We Love Loomis campaign, which you can see right down there, designed to encourage local dining and shopping and supporting our community and also helping others in need. I'm sure that you've seen the signs sprouting up around town. Thank you to Tony Smith for the amazing artwork that you created for us on this campaign. We are now in phase 3 of the reopening plan, and it is far from business as usual, and we are continuing to find creative ways to do business here in Loomis. Some of the examples that we have are town staff is ordering permanent picnic tables to be placed in the center median where the clock tower is located. And that's right here at the multimodal parking lot. We will be removing the black metal benches in that section and will install the tables. These tables will allow for increased seating for all of the restaurants in the downtown area. And we anticipate placing about 10 tables out there. The state has provided Placer County and its cities with a stockpile of paper masks and hand sanitizer. The town will receive a number of these masks that will be distributed through the Chamber of Commerce. So please visit their website for more information. As more and more businesses are reopening, I'm going to talk again about that Reopen Placer website. This website was a collaboration and contribution of all the local chambers and also the county health officer. The information that you can find on this website is vital for opening up our businesses safely. And all businesses need to comply with the safety guidelines, and some of these are extremely complicated. So please contact our local chamber, or even at Placer County Economic Development Department if you're having trouble with any of those sort of complicated rules. We definitely want to know if you need help with that. Thank you for the inspiring message by Chris Hebert to shop local and to shop small business. It is so on point. Let's all try to rethink how we purchase. You do have a choice where you buy your products. And purchasing power is a very powerful thing. When you choose to buy local, you are essentially helping that business and the community all at once, just like she said. So it's very sage advice. I would like to congratulate the inaugural Loomis leadership class that recently graduated. The leadership class was spearheaded by Jenny Knisley and Bonnie London and was based on similar classes in nearby cities. This was a first opportunity for us to cultivate local leadership and educate the participants in all things affecting Loomis. Thank you to all the steering committee members for your hard work and volunteering your time and experience. Planning will commence for another class shortly, and I highly encourage any of you that feel the need to learn more about your town and what affects it, and you want to become more civically minded, this is the class for you. It's an experience that you will value and get so much out of. I touched base with a few of our faith leaders here in Loomis to get their views of what has transpired over the last months and how their congregations are faring. The biggest challenge at our places of worship was that it was very hard on people not to come together. Church is where you come to pray and share feelings with friends and fellowship, and without this opportunity to congregate, it was especially hard for people during this time of isolation and fear. The shelter-in-place order actually forced the faithful to find creative ways to communicate and participate in religious activities, and faith was connected in new ways. Now, as houses of worship are open again, albeit with strict guidelines, I am told that everyone realized the importance of meeting in person and were very tired of social meetings and social media and Zoom meetings. Amen to that. While some definite challenges came from the pandemic, there were some positive outcomes according to our faith leaders. What I learned was that they feel that the pandemic has actually brought families closer together, strengthening the family bond. In addition, they feel that we have such good and generous people here in Loomis and attest that our motto, a small town is like a big family, is intact and flourishing. They went on to say that it was wonderful to see how willing people are to reach out and check on each other and willing to share what they had. One story I heard was of a few ladies who bartered during a time that supplies were not readily available. One woman needed powdered milk and found another woman who had some, and so they traded for eggs. Problem solved. Speaking of eggs, our annual Easter egg hunt had to be canceled, but with some ingenuity and creativity, the coordinators of this event pivoted and created a drive-through Easter egg hunt, where they passed out 500 pre-made Easter egg bags. It was noted that even the Easter Bunny made an appearance. Everyone was so thankful for this very fun event. On a more somber note, with regard to the recent racial unrest that our country is suffering from, the leaders in our faith community feel that there is a brokenness in the world, and that has the hurt and heart of humanity. And this brokenness is racism. This is a hard subject to navigate, but we must not just navigate it. We should do something about it. Actions speak louder than words. Our own town of Loomis is steeped with history about our beloved Japanese American and Chinese American citizens. They did not have an easy time of it at all during World War II and endured suffering, losing property, and separated families when they were forced to go to the internment camps just because of their race. This is a very sensitive subject. We must teach our children about injustice and the difference between treating people right from wrong, no matter what color your skin is. If you see someone doing something wrong, stand up for that person. Take action. Use your voice, educate, stand up, seek out information, and stay informed. And then repeat. One faith leader I spoke with posed the question that it's easy to maintain the status quo, but is that what we've been asked to do? I grew up in Loomis and always felt much love for our Japanese Americans and Chinese American citizens. And to be honest, I never thought of them with that label. We were a very diverse and multicultural town, and wasn't that how all towns were? These people had names like Grace and Max, Harvey and Milton and Doc, to name a small few, and I loved them as friends and looked up to them as well-respected people and leaders in the community, which they were. As a very small child, I was not taught what they went through. We should be teaching our children early on about these injustices and how ugly racism is. Now is the time to educate people on what has happened to the people of color historically. Black Lives Matter. The deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were incomprehensible. Racism exists in our country for many of our American citizens of all skin color. How can we change this? We act. We step up and be the voice of change. The focus is now shifted to hope, education, direction, reconciliation, and then healing. We need to get to the heart to try to heal those in despair. I was told by one Loomis faith leader that God sees us as all one giant family, which to me really hit home. We need to take care of each other. We need to make a difference in the lives of others. Our hearts and heads should be focused on the greater good for humanity as a whole, while always listening and learning with empathy for those that need help. And then we should never give up on that focus. As I was preparing this section of the address, I came across a quote from Nelson Mandela, which I thought very profound and timely, and I wanted to share it. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. As I lean in toward the end of our State of the Town address, I want to emphasize that we are still trying to figure out how to live, work, and remain safe during COVID-19. And with that said, it is still vitally important to remain vigilant about this virus. Be mindful of your whereabouts. Please continue to wash your hands often for 20 seconds. Wear face coverings while in public spaces and distance yourself from others. Have hand sanitizer at the ready in your car, purse, home, and anywhere you may need it. Please make a promise to check on others, your neighbor, a senior. Loomis, this small town has gone through some very serious issues in just the first half of this year. But we have met those challenges head on and are doing the best we can as a big family. We are headed down an unknown path, but we do so with the courage and knowledge that we have wonderful people living here. We have great faith, amazing businesses, and a great outlook. We must remember that it's important to listen and walk shoulder to shoulder with all residents, and we should act to make a difference in the lives of others. Because a small town that is like a big family supports one another and our community as a whole. Thank you all for watching, and please take good care of yourselves.
Work today. You have anything else that you'd like to say, Mayor Jan?
You know, just want to thank everybody for tuning in and thanking our presenters, and thank you, Sean, for your hard work, and Jenny Nisley from the Chamber. And I seriously hope that this is the last time we have to do the State of the Town address in the train depot. It's, you know, it's very, very different to not have an audience in front of us, and it's, you know, to sort of get that immediate feedback from all of our presentations. And so I thank everybody that presented today. I appreciate your time, and thank you for working through technological issues and as we muddle through, but I just want to wish everybody the best and stay safe and stay well.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chief, for hanging in there. All right. And then I have one more little slideshow thing we're going to do here to play us out. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great rest of the day, great summer, great weekend.